Alright, I'm going to do some USB 3.0 testing tonight. I noticed here on ESXi 5.1, if we look at a Windows 8 virtual machine I created, and there's a video all about how I did that, we've got a VM version of 9. So that means I right-clicked and upgraded the virtual machine version, so the right-click menu no longer shows up. The type of operating system for it, well, let's just go ahead and show you. If we go to Edit Settings, in the Options tab, you'll see it says Windows 8 64-bit. If we go to hardware, you'll see I've added a ESXi controller, USB 3.0 compatible. But the thing is, if we look at the operating system, the virtual machine, and let's do it the new way. Sorry, I got to get used to this. Move your mouse to the bottom left corner, right-click, and hit Device Manager. That's what I really want to see. Yeah, you'll see this serial bus controller, USB 3.0 controller, but it doesn't do anything. The hypervisor doesn't seem to recognize USB 3.0 devices attached locally. What I mean by that is if we go into Edit Settings and we try to add a device, USB 3.0 device, USB 3.0 devices aren't showing this list. No matter what port I stick them in, that's USB 3.0 enabled. If I put them in a USB 2.0 port enabled port, they'll show up. So it just doesn't seem to have USB 3.0 support in the hypervisor level. So then I was wondering, well, okay, can we attach a USB 3.0 device that's on the client side? Well, from the from the vSphere client, it seems we cannot. So that inspired me to go ahead and try this. Just before recording the video, I ran the vSphere client called a web client. So basically, we're pointing our Chrome browser, in this case, to the IP address of the vCenter appliance. And we log in. Now, if you haven't seen the web client view, you're going to notice some different stuff. Well, it looks a little different, but let's just click on VMs and templates and go right to that same Windows 8 system. Okay, the Windows 8 system is slowly showing up here. And pretty interface. Shows us some of the hardware components, resources that it has. But what's important for me is I want to see this VM hardware section. Notice it says loading USB 3.0 devices. This is where things get interesting. Watch this. Okay, we get a little pop-up, a plug-in. Okay, that was a mistake. I hit yes to the plugin, but then I accidentally clicked underneath with my mouse. Okay, so let's try this again. Let's click turn that off and then click allow. All right, and now a list came up. Now, how do we know what device? Well, let's look at Device Manager on this local machine. So I'm going to show you Device Manager on the laptop that I'm running right now. Okay, here's Device Manager. Disk drive sounds promising. An data device. I know these other drives are my local hard drives. What's a better way to do this? How about Disk Manager? So if we look at disk management on the local file system, we'll see my C drive, my D drive here. My F drive sounds promising. It's a 32 gig USB 3 device from AData I've installed. If we click Explore, I've got a single text file on there, 1 kilobyte in size. All right, so now we are darn sure that it's an AData device. Remember the hardware said AData, that we want to map to this VM. So again, my vZilla server is distant. My laptop's in front of me with a USB 3.0 memory stick sticking out of it. And I'm going to try connecting for the first time. It's going to unplug from my machine and plug it in the virtual machine. Okay, you heard the device recognition as it disappeared from Windows. Now, you're not going to hear it in the VM. Why? Because I didn't have a remote desktop connection going to the VM. If I did, we would have heard a little recognition tone. So back to this window here. Let's see what's happened. Okay, we missed the actual recognition. It took too long talking there, but there you go. A data showed up. That's good. So if we go to Explore, it's already formatted NTFS. We should just be able to see it and explore it. And we can. Awesome. So now it's time to do a little testing. Are we getting USB 3.0 speeds? Well, we've got a gigabit connection between us, so that shouldn't be slowing us down. But yeah, it'll be interesting to see what kind of speed I get here. And I'm going to need another utility for that. Let me just take a second to grab that. So I've got a little utility folder. And it's really nice to have this ATTO benchmark handy. Doesn't need to install, you just run the EXE. And now we can run that against this D drive and see what kind of terrible speeds we get. Now while that's running, let me just show you something here. We've got an article all about testing of USB 3.0 drives that I wrote a little while ago. Here's what it looks like. So you'll see I detail a way to test USB drives, and it's a utility that is intended for these sorts of tests, and it looks like this rather than ATTO benchmark. So today I picked the A data device here that I tested that gives me the best speed. So on the left here is the baseline we're kind of expecting. While that's running, we can prepare and go ahead and get this USB flash speed tool as well. Okay, that doesn't look too good. IE10 doesn't like that very much, apparently. Sorry, I'm laughing, but what the heck was that? Let's see what happens with Chrome. Okay, now we got a copy of Chrome going. Let's see if Chrome does any better. Nope. So it's not an Explorer's fault. All right, well. I've got that utility downloaded somewhere, so while this benchmark's running, I'm going to go ahead and scrounge that up. Pausing the video now. I'll resume when the benchmarking's done. Okay, we finished the first run here with ATTO disk bench, and well, what do we think? It's running at 60% of what it should. Reads are about half, and writes are about 60%. Yeah, it's not great, but it did work. I could try again with a solid-state drive attached to USB 3.0. So I don't think I have one handy, but I have a USB 3.0 to SATA adapter, which would give me a nice speedy device to test this with. But this was a good start because I had a baseline and pictures. So I also mentioned that utility from usbspeed.com. Well, I fixed that problem. So I grabbed my digital pack rat version, kept it, and I'm glad I did now. Just go ahead and copy that to the local computer. Just a second. Again, a utility that does not need an install. Okay, interesting. So to run that aging utility, it has a .NET requirement, which is kind of annoying. You can see the VM is a little bit busy here. The CPU is the busiest. resource. And it's taking a little while to install. It's saying download, yet the network is not busy at all, which is interesting. Yep, it's receiving packets. No idea why it said network not busy, but there it is. It's got all the download files, and now it's installing them. Okay, so once this thing is up, we should be able to run a second benchmark against this flash drive and give ourselves a nice comparison of what kind of speed we're getting with USB 3.0 support that is now on this product, only through the vSphere web client apparently. That's got interesting implications for remote desktop users. So let me think about that. I should run these same tests over remote desktop connection with drive mapping turned on and see what kind of results I get. Makes sense, right? So instead of you doing USB 3.0 kind of mapping magic that the vSphere web client is doing, we'll try a different approach. Probably to make this more natural to watch the video, I'm going to go ahead and minimize that. And I'm going to bring up the web client and just get used to the console there. That's more better use case. We've got a connected client device. And now we're going to bring up the console. Notice the device that's already connected does not show in the list of candidates to attach. Okay, that's interesting. It came up in a different window. But it did come up. So now let's get that going. Okay, so the console. It finished. And now when we run FlashBench, it should work. I'm going to close it, close everything. CPU settle down, start it again. Indeed, FlashBench works. Change the drive later to this D drive. And let her rip. And now we simply wait. Could be kind of interesting to look at this while it's benchmarking. Is there any overhead from leaving Task Manager running and watching the disk? I don't know, but to be fair, I should leave it running for both tests. I had it running on ATTO Diskbench, so I'll leave it running for this one as well. I really doubt it's making much of a dent, if any. Latency is terrible, half a second. But its numbers do seem to match the graph on the right, so that's pretty cool. If we look at processes, and look at Task Managers using 2%, 1%, I don't see why that would affect the disk I/O at all. Bringing up our reference article again. Showing the results I got last time around. And we'll compare them to the results we get this time around once this thing is done. So we can come up with a more appropriate size given the resolution. Okay, so the web client is a little different than what you might be used to. Plus the fact that it launched in a whole separate window, which was also a bit different. Okay, I'm going to speed up this portion of the video. The clock will go past real time. Okay, resuming the video, I'm going to look at my local task manager. So this is on my host locally. If we look at performance of Ethernet, you can see that obviously it's using gigabit Ethernet for this test. Now I'm on small files right now, and it's not so obvious because it's rather minimal traffic. And actually I think the benchmark may have just finished. It's about to finish. Anyhow, the point is, how else would it connect to USB 3.0 on my laptop? Well, it's got to be with a gigabit cable. So when this thing's done, the stop button should go away and the gray should go away, I believe. So I'm still waiting for that to happen. All right. Nothing. Well, let me go ahead and set up terminal services. I just wrote another line, so it's still working. So while I wait for that, I'm going to hit Windows R, type MSTSC. It's kind of the old school way to do it. And let's just set up a connection here. I know I'm not supposed to touch anything and I'm touching it, but let's just see what my IP address is. 140, okay. Hostname would have worked fine too, of course. It's important to note we want to do an option here. We want to say local resources, more, expand the drive section, and okay, drive that I plug in later. All right, that's going to be that A data drive. So when I unmap it from here using the vSphere web client connection and just kill the USB connection, actually I'm not sure how you do that yet with the GUI, it should disappear from Device Manager in the VM and pop over to the Device Manager in the remote desktop session. Well, not really Device Manager, sorry. It's going to just show up as a drive letter in remote desktop connection. And then we'll just test out how a USB 3.0 disk behaves in a remote desktop environment versus this USB 3.0 mapping environment. See which is the performance champ. Boy, these last tests take forever. So if we click Send Report, yeah, we know the website's down anyway, so we'll have to live with that graph instead of the pretty graph that I made here, because USB flash speed is down. Okay, it's time to set up the remote connection. So let's see, is there any place in this user interface to unmap USB 3? No, so I'm just going to close it. How about in this interface? Do we see any way to unmap the A data drive? I don't. All this has absolutely nothing to do with it. Okay, how about edit settings? Did USB 3.0 mapping show there somehow? So the controller is there, but nothing about a device that we've added is there. Oh, there it is. eData. Okay. It's currently passed through. It's telling me and it's got an X. Let's compare and contrast that with the vSphere client, the traditional one. So this video must be a little confusing at this point. You're looking at a pop-up window with a vSphere client. So let's make it less confusing and go with the tabbed view of the console. All right. So now if we go in and say Edit Settings, is there an option here to unmap? Yes, there is. Click Remove. I chose not to do that. I'm going to stick with the web client way. But I want to see, let me think about that. I want Device Manager showing while I do it. So I want to see the drive just disappear. All right, so now back to the web clients, edit settings. It's not going to work. Let's try that again. Sliding the web client off. Come on. Sorry, a little aggravating getting these multiple windows going here in a way that you can see everything happening. That was strange. Okay, let's try again. Forget the vSphere client. We're going to go pure web client. What that means is I've got to get the console back up to reduce confusion a bit here. Okay, console's coming up. Okay, there's the console. We'll bring that up and leave it on the right. Let's bring the web client on the left. Okay, you got Device Manager showing. This should work out beautifully. Sluggish. Over here, you'll also see the drive letter just flat out disappear. So that means it's not the most graceful exit. So we really should be ejecting through here. So normally, I guess that's the way we'd want to do it. But let's just go ahead and forcibly remove it for the purposes of the test. It'll make it more interesting. If only this would load. So something bad happened there. So we already agree there's no other way to disconnect it. We need to wait for this Edit Settings dialog to come up. And it did. Client device, eData, click the X. Will be removed, I guess, once we click OK. And it worked. Okay, the drive's removed. We are done with all that stuff. Now it's time to run that remote desktop connection that we set up. So do you remember this? We said devices that I plug in later, and what do you know? 32 gig device automatically showed. So I'm going to hit cancel. I didn't change anything. I was just showing you what the more dialog showed. Everything else is ready to go. It's ready to connect. Size, yep. It's good size. That's what I'm recording. Oh, nope. The same account. Should pick up right where we left off. Great. So now we're in the remote desktop world. And the same eData device is mapped. Let me get the resolution perfect. Okay, recording everything. Excellent. What's going on here? Doesn't look too good, actually. If we hit refresh or F5, now it looks better. There's my data drive. will I be able to benchmark on a drive mapped that way? I don't know. Yeah, it's not really a drive. Like these tools might have trouble recognizing it. In fact, if we look here, it doesn't even show up as a disk drive. So I think this is going to be a fail. It was a nice idea, but getting it done this way is probably just not going to work. Yep, doesn't look good at all. Not for that tool anyway. How about this one? It's got a refresh list button. Had some problems. Cute. Drive I is a network drive letter. That ain't going to help. Drive I is a network drive mapping, but not this drive F. So much for benchmarking that way. Drag and drop of files would be a whole other method, but okay. Well, that concludes this test of my USB 3.0 capabilities on ESXi 5.1. This is just a first test, a first look. There's very little information anywhere on the web as far as I can see about anything about the USB 3.0 capabilities. But I believe I've now stumbled upon the way you're supposed to do it. There just seems to be exceedingly little to no documentation about it. Speaking of documentation, does the web client actually have like a help screen or something that talks about this? Don't know. What happens if we search? At least Chrome search works now. It didn't used to. You had to use IE. And type in USB 3 right there. Put it in quotes. Any better with quotes? Nothing found, 0 hits. So I think that kind of answers that. So yeah, that's the end of this video, and hopefully you found it helpful, and thank you for watching.